Hello and welcome to Moment of Truth on Labour Social. I'm Graham Hughes. Now, conspiracy theorists used to be mainly confined to their homes, fearful to go outside, jumping at shadows, boring their mum with their crackpot theories about lizards taking over the world, who then bizarrely make TV shows about lizards taking over the world. Irritating, but mostly harmless. Sadly for the rest of us, the internet then came along, and suddenly these conspiracy theorists had a platform for communicating with the real world, something they seem to know very little about, from the comfort of their parents' basement, and disseminating their quite mind-bogglingly stupid and ill-informed claptrap around the planet to their fellow barking mad nutcases. Psychologists have shown there is a distinct personality type that consistently goes in for this kind of garbage. Idiots. I'm distrustful of authority because I think everyone in charge of this planet is a complete and utter moron, something for which I have a mountain of evidence. Conspiracy theorists, on the other hand, unswervingly believe that the powers that be are vastly more intelligent than themselves. The funny thing is, this is true, they are, but only so much as Forrest Gump is smarter than Dougal from Father Ted. But then, conspiracy theorists, by their very nature, believe that anyone who doesn't mindlessly go along with their pet theory is an idiot or part of the conspiracy. So you can't win. Now, I don't know what it's like to be intimidated by a person of superior intelligence. I find them a sheer delight. But I know what it's like to be intimidated by someone physically bigger than me, so I can understand the root of the fear and feeling of helplessness that drives these conspiracy theorists to grope and squeeze their pet theory, much in the manner of Pepe Le Pew attempting to romance a rather unlucky cat. Yes, I get angry that people besmirch the achievements of our species by claiming that aliens built the pyramids or that Neil Armstrong didn't walk on the moon. But the one thing that really gets my goat is the way that these lone nuts and their bizarre cacophony of recycled, unresearched bullshit is seen as harmless. It may have been before the internet, but now they have a platform. Homebrew conspiracy theories are no longer harmless. Here's a few historical examples of the kind of thing that happens when ill-informed lunatics are given a platform. Hitler and his cronies start a conspiracy theory that World War I was caused by Jews. Senator McCarthy starts a conspiracy theory that there are communist spies hiding in Congress, universities, and the film industry. An imam from Nigeria starts a conspiracy theory that polio vaccines are actually poisonous. The government of South Africa propagates a conspiracy theory that HIV doesn't lead to AIDS. George W. Bush starts a conspiracy theory that Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction. What do these 5 case studies have in common? They all sounded reasonable enough to a fearful and credulous mind, and they were all used to scapegoat, spread disease, and or slaughter. No, I don't think conspiracy theorism is harmless. It's a religion taken on faith with cherry-picked evidence as its holy text and a pre-selected sector of society to demonize. In short, I don't want them on my jury unless I'm guilty. And so I come to the climate change deniers. Over a decade ago, when we still could have done something about it, a posh, privately educated, those in the public eye almost all are, climate change denier of the it'll all turn out all right in the end, what? Think George from Blackadder Goes Forth. Style of thought. A guy called James Delingpole was allowed to go on the BBC's flagship science programme, Horizon, where he attempted to justify his toxic position to Sir Paul Nurse, Nobel Science Laureate, and the then president of the Royal Society, the oldest continuously existing scientific academy in the world. Although Paul wasn't privately educated, so could be safely ignored. In a contemporary blog post for The Telegraph, long since deleted, here's what this ghoulish, cringing cretin Delingpole believed he was up against. And I swear I'm not making it up. The warmest faith Yeah, that's what he called climate scientists, the warmest faith. The warmest faith so fervently held and promulgated by the Met Office is the exact same faith so passionately, unswervingly followed by David Cameron, Chris Huhne, Greg Barker, the coalition's energy spokesman in the Lords, Lord Marland, and all but 5 members of the last Parliament, and also by the BBC, the Prince of Wales, and almost every national newspaper, the European Union, the Royal Society, the New York Times, CNBC, the Obama administration, the Australian and New Zealand governments, your children's schools, our major universities, our minor universities, the University of East Anglia, your local council. Truly, there aren't enough bullets. That's literally what he wrote in a blog post for The Telegraph. So, hang on a minute. Hang on. So, all of these people and institutions are wrong, and a posh hack journalist with no scientific background whatsoever is right. What on earth am I missing here? Has the world gone completely mad? When you're fighting the Met Office, the Royal Society, and our major and minor universities over their peer-reviewed scientific research, you really are punching above your weight. If Johnny's mum really thinks that the entire parade is out of step with her Johnny, it doesn't take a genius to see where the error really lies. But their outright stupidity is not what bothers me so much about climate change deniers. It's the sheer lack of mental capacity to take a breath and think, what if I'm wrong? There are 2 possibilities here. Either the climate scientists are lying, or the climate change deniers are wrong. Okay, that's for the sake of argument. Let's say the possibility of these 2 outcomes is 50-50. It's not, but let's say it is. We have 2 choices, to act on or to ignore the scientific evidence. Let's go through what the results would probably be of each action and each possibility. Choice 1, act on the scientific evidence. What happens if we do what the scientists of the world keep pleading with us to do and massively cut our carbon emissions? It would mean electric cars, renewable energy, recycling, and remembering to turn the lights off. It would mean energy companies would have to invest in wind turbines, solar, tidal, hydroelectric, and nuclear power. It would mean humans would no longer suffer the indignity and reduced lifespan caused by having to work in a coal mine. It would mean oil leaks and spills would be a thing of the past. The Niger Delta would come back to life. Pristine wildernesses would be preserved for future generations. Rates of asthma and allergies would decrease. The smog would be lifted from LA, Dhaka, and Shanghai. It would also greatly reduce the West's dependence on the autocratic regimes of the Middle East and elsewhere for energy. Now, if the scientists are lying and we do all this stuff and then find out that we didn't need to, so what? Is it not still a step in the right direction? Is not chasing clean, infinite energy not a worthy goal to set for the sake of our children? The climate change deniers are wrong. Well done. We just saved the human race. So, then, choice 2. Ignore the scientific evidence. Now, what if we do what the climate change deniers keep pleading with us to do and ignore the Met Office, ignore the Royal Society, ignore NASA, and ignore the climate scientists of the world's top universities? Major and minor. We carry on business as usual, pumping millions of tons of carbon into the atmosphere year on year until the oil runs out. Now, in this scenario, if the scientists are lying, the climate change deniers are vindicated. They were right all along. Maybe they'll have a party or something. They can rest happy in their bed, safe in the knowledge that they protected the profits of the major oil companies they don't even work for, and that they have saved people from the tyranny of having to recycle stuff. Woohoo, yay! Meanwhile, hundreds of scientists from all over the world are thrown in jail for being part of a worldwide conspiracy to do, what? Ask us nicely to turn the sodden lights off? Anyway, so in that scenario, what if the climate change deniers are wrong? Well, in that scenario, and we've done what they've wanted us to do, we are absolutely 100% dead cert fucked. London and New York find themselves several metres below sea level. The Gulf Stream moves north, plunging the UK into Arctic-like winters, bankrupting the nation. Dozens of island states are wiped off the map, along with Florida, Bangladesh and the Netherlands. Fish die, cattle drown, food supplies are disrupted, famine, pestilence, war, death, etc. So, I'm just putting this out there, but since there's a good chance that not doing anything to reduce our carbon output will cause a thoroughly miserable future for everyone and everything on the planet, and that doing something will be a net benefit even if all the scientists in the world are wrong, pretty much all the scientists, can we, just err on the side of caution? What are the scientists asking us to do again? Was it sacrifice our firstborn? Oh no. That's right. They want us to turn the lights off and maybe stop subsidising filthy fossil fuel extraction. I'm not the first person to say this, but we don't have another planet to go to if the climate change deniers are wrong. Even if you are so naive, so blitheringly stupid, so horrifically misguided that you truly believe that pretty much every scientist in the world is a corrupt, thieving liar, and that the politicians, right-wing newspaper columnists, and the oil companies are on the straight and narrow, then surely you can at least concede to me on this one. Where else are you planning to go to? Mars? Actually, I don't know why I'm being so conciliatory. If you are a climate change denier, you probably haven't bothered to watch this far. But on the off chance that you have, please be aware that if you're wrong and the governments of the world continue to do sod all to tackle climate change, since it's not really in their interests, is it? Then you are part of the greatest crime against humanity since the Holocaust. In fact, you're worse than the Holocaust denier. They had no actual hand in causing the Holocaust. But you have a very, very blood-soaked hand in causing this one. In short, you're a very, very bad person. I can't fathom how you can sleep soundly at night. I can only imagine that you're too pig ignorant to understand the ramifications of your strange and untenable beliefs. You're not being smart. You're not being funny. You're not just playing devil's advocate. This isn't a game. You are gambling with the future of the human race. For what? So climate scientists don't get any more measly research grants from the government? Does it bother you that much? Are you really willing to make that bet? A bet that if you lose will spell a lifetime of misery and disaster for your children and grandchildren. But maybe you don't have kids. Maybe or don't want them. Maybe you think that humans are a virus and we need to cull the numbers. Maybe you would be glad to see nations and cities washed away, refugees starving in camps for the crime of being at the wrong place in the wrong time. But please, don't dress up your genocidal mania as healthy debate. It is not. All climate change deniers are doing is playing into the hands of the dirty fuel, toxic energy companies and corrupt politicians. They are the Neville Chamberlains appeasing the Nazis, waving a piece of paper declaring peace in our time when all the evidence is to the contrary. They're playing with the future of our children, and that's a right they simply do not have. So next time you run into a climate change denier, I wouldn't try and reason with them or even try to get them to agree with your point of view. Just ask them this one simple question. What if you're wrong?